Well, hello and welcome to my latest video. Now, in the United States of Kingdom, you may not know this if you live in another part of the world, but it is what we are pleased to call winter. And if you're not aware of this fact, in winter it tends to get cold, and what happens then is that all the great cycling YouTubers, and I'm talking about GCN, I'm talking about Cade Media, I'm talking about all the great cycling YouTubers do a video that we are pleased to call what to wear if you're cycling in the cold weather. And so obviously, being one of the not so great cycling YouTubers, but at least a cycling YouTuber, I thought it was time I did my own version of that, what to wear when it's cold in winter. Now, the first thing we do is we wear some kind of a loose-fitting base layer. Now, I'm naked under this. I'm only going to show you that very quickly because it's not a pretty sight. So what do I wear over this base layer? Well, I wear what I am pleased to call a long-sleeved base layer. And it's called a long-sleeved base layer for a reason. Primarily because, as you can see, it's got long sleeves. Okay, so the weather has turned a little cold, and take note here, in fact you may want to take notes, the weather's turned a little cold, so I've decided to wear some additional clothing. All right, so that when it's cold, what we like to do is we wear additional clothing. So I've put on this long sleeve base layer, but I've been outside and it's really quite cold. So when it's quite cold, what I like to do is add an additional layer. This is actually a rather unfortunate sort of diarrhea coloured DHB, but it is merino wool. So if you ever come across one of those Jose Mourinho sheep, then you'll be able to shear him and you'll be able to get the wool and you'll be able to make one of these merino base layers. Okay, so I've been outside and it's a little bit more than quite cold. It's what I would call actually fairly cold and not particularly pleasant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear a kind of mid-layer jacket, and this is actually by ASOS, the famous as seen on the screen shop that you may have come across. This is a zip-up jacket, so I'm putting this on. I'm trying to move through this video fairly quickly because I understand you may want to recreate some of what I'm doing. Whether you do it in your garage or whether you do it out on the road is up to you. So now I'm feeling fairly warm and I'm thinking of going out cycling, but I've looked outside and actually the weather's looking pretty damn cold. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on something around my neck that we call a buff. Now I believe, and I've told by various people, that a buff is actually a trademark. So I prefer to use the word muff, and this was designed by Lady Muff back in the 18th century, who had a particularly cold horse ride one day, and so wanted to get something to warm her muff. So she, God. Oh, Julian, how could you do that? Anyway, I've been outside, and it's what we call really, really cold. So what I'm going to do now is wear what I like to call a gillet, although what you may prefer to call a gilet, because you've got a kind of francophone European approach to the British language that we use in the United States of Kingdom. Now this gilet or gillet or whatever you want to call it whatever you like. It's a free country. Well, it was, but and here the thing about the gilet is if you're in a hurry, like I just was, you can't do the zip up, but at least it's kept me fairly warm. So I've gone outside and I'm thinking, actually no, it's a bit too cold for cycling. I really need to wear something a bit warmer. So I've got what I like to call a DHB winter jacket. So I'm putting this on. Now you may be taking notes with your children, teaching them about maths, and you may have come up to how many layers Julian's got on, because one of the secrets about cycling is in really cold weather is that you have a number of layers, so that when you get really hot you can then take those layers off, and if you've got sort of pockets in the back of your various bits of cycling clothing, you can undo or you can take off a layer at a time and you can put it into your back pockets, and before you know it you look like a kind of pregnant person with like triplets or even triple triplets, and triple triplets are 9 babies. Actually, it's not often seen, but it has been seen occasionally. And I've actually been outside and I've found that 1 muff is not enough. You may find this yourselves. And sometimes you want to have a second muff. So here I've got a second muff, and I've put this on. Now this one can go all the way actually over your face like that. So if you're thinking of robbing a bank as opposed to having just a cycle ride, then you're nicely disguised. But I've been outside, and to be honest, it's really, really, really bloody cold, which is a word that we use in the United Kingdom to describe the weather when it's actually too cold to go out cycling at all. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to put on this actual winter skiing jacket, and this is now going to keep me so toasty that I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to cycle. But one of the things I'm going to add is you may know this, but 110% of the heat when you're out in the cold weather evaporates through the top of your head, and if you're bald you'll find that you lose 125% of your heat. Now you may find when you go out in the cold weather that actually one of these hats that we like to call this a hat is actually not warm enough, so I'm going to put on a second hat like that, and that's going to keep me really toasty. But actually I've been outside and it's what we call fucking cold, and when it's fucking cold I like to put on a third hat like that, and then I also put on a pair of shoe covers. Now you can't see this because you can't see my feet, and I can't even get my foot up high enough in the so you can't even see my feet. But if you saw my feet you'd see that on top of my shoes I had these which we call shoe covers, and they're called shoe covers because they cover your shoes. And then I'm going to put on this pair of gloves, which it seems to me that in the cold weather, I don't know if this happens to you, but in the cold weather my hands seem to have expanded. So isn't that weird? Look, are these my gloves? They are my gloves, and I can't get them on. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's too fucking cold for cycling, Julian. Forget it, mate. Stay in and watch some Tour de France shit on the television. And there you are, folks. What to wear when the weather is cold. Now it can be summed up in a few words, and that is put on some extra clothes. For fuck's sake, do you really need a video to tell you what to wear when the weather is cold? Anyway, I am now sweating like a bastard. I'm going to try and get all these clothes off, and I'm going to flop on the sofa because frankly I'm knackered. So thanks for watching. If I don't see you before Christmas, and hopefully I won't see you before Christmas because I'm going to be avoiding the lot of you, all I can say is I hope you have a dreadful, dreadful, unpleasant, miserable, worst possible Christmas imaginable. But just remember Julian's watchword: there are always, always, always nobody worse off than you. So thanks for watching. See you next time.